بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. لله تبارك وتعالى. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We extend a great, big, humongous welcome to all of you to another session of the Black Imams Roundtable. I am joined with my two illustrious comrades in the struggle, above us in status, but below us in location, is the beautiful, beloved Imam, Camden's finest, Imam Faheem, Fahilito Brigante. Whatever the heck that means, right? Right?
I'm reloaded.
And who is the Imam of the Boom Bap. And my beloved comrade next to me, Pittsburgh's Sheikh of the La Corner Store, Imam Naeem Abdullah. And I am Imam Amin Muhammad, whom they sometimes call Imam Otis because nobody came to see you, Otis, right? And we are your beloved Black Imams. And I want to emphasize Black because that means we have our way of doing things. We don't fit in the box. We're outside the box. So it's a Black thing, if you want to understand it. That doesn't exclude anyone, but it lets you know, hey, we have our own way of doing it. We just want to get the job done, though. So remember, when you come to the Black Imams Roundtable, you're coming to the cookout. And it's a Black cookout. So therefore, it's going to have some things that may, if you're not used to the Black experience, make you a little bit uncomfortable. But you are welcome to find your position of comfort in engaging and acting with us. Inshallah, you will get it. With that being said, let me remind you of a few housekeeping things that we always remind you of. Number one, share. Sharing is caring. Repost, tag, do all those things so that your friends, family, loved ones get to hear the important discussions that are held on the Black Imams Roundtable. Like, show your appreciation and your love for the work that these beloved Imams and myself are doing within our community. And we can never forget support. Our program continues to be successful through your support. Because through your support, we are not funded by any entity except us. So therefore, we can speak freely and not worried about being canceled. Because when you do your own efforts of supporting, You don't have to bow down. You really shouldn't bow down anyway, but unfortunately, many people bow down when they are trying to get some support. But since we support ourselves, since we are the fuel in our engine, we don't have to do that. So we can call it as it is or as we see it. And that is through your constant, diligent support. So there are multiple ways to support this work. And everyone by now knows our baseline weekly objective, but that is not where we stop at. That's where we must work to. But we wish always to go above so we can do more. You know, someone told me today, let me say to someone, I was talking to my brother today, and we were talking about reparations. And he asked me, what do you believe most of us would do if we would receive reparations? And I was thinking to myself, I know what I would do with it. I would take that money and I would do so much in educating our community, inshallah ta'ala. I would take those resources and I would build. It'd be our communities would be strengthened. And I would try to find others who got reparations as well and convince them, say, yo, let's put all this together and build an ideal community. How about it? Listen, they gave us the money. Let's use it to build, right? And that's what we should do even without that money. We should take the money we have and build our own together, right? Without reparations. We have our own resources. We should use them to build our platforms and our institutions and work collectively together. As for tonight's roundtable is entitled, When It's All Done, What Really Matters. We're on election night, and by the end of the night, we're going to be looking to see who is the next president of the United States of America. And of course, over the following days, when that is verified. But we can't do any more in terms of voting and debating. It's all going to be left to the officials to count and calculate and give us the ultimate result. So we're already, most of us, past that, and we have to say, now, what do we really have to do? And for me, in my opening statement, the same thing that we were doing before this election, the same thing we were doing during the election is the same thing we have to do after the election. We have to learn our religion well. We have to take that knowledge, apply it in our lives, call others to Islam, and build for the future. That's what really matters. We have to acquire the knowledge of Islam, learn our deen. We have to implement that knowledge, practice it in our lives. We have to convey it to others. We have to spread the da'wah, and we have to leave a legacy for our future generations. And we have to figure out the most productive ways to do that. One of the things that I believe we have to figure out, and I'm probably the worst one at it, what I believe we have to figure out. I don't have an answer to this. I do, and that's not true. I have an answer how to do it. I just don't know if I can push myself to do what is needed to be done. Maybe I need to encourage someone else, and when they do it, just help them. That's my struggle. But what is that? We need to figure a way to bring Muslims, all those who claim to be Muslim, to a common understanding of cooperation and mutual consultation for a collective good, despite our differences. Believe it or not, we're working diligently on the ground to do it, but it's very hard. It's not an easy job. But I believe that is the most important effort after those four things that we need to do. I need to be able to find a medium ground to work with that person who's Muslim that I disagree with for a collective good for all of us. To identify our collective good and cooperate within that. That is the challenge for us. And this election should have shown us that we lose strength when we are not able to do that. So you have Muslims for Trump, Muslims for Harris, Muslims for Stein, and no Muslims for Muslims. Right? We're for Trump, we're for Harris, we're for Stein, but we don't have our own agenda. So no Muslims for Muslims. We have not had our own agenda put forth because we can't come together to even sit down and figure out an agenda because of our own internal differences. We have to figure a way to navigate that. And one of the ways I believe we can do it is when we stop letting others dictate to us how we should think as Americans. Because we have our own reality. And we need to address that reality. As Muslims living in the United States of America, we have work that we collectively have to do as a nation of people within a nation. And that's a lot of dialogue. That's a lot of work because we have so many external factors that prevent us from figuring that. And I can think of the biggest one of them is racism. We have a racism problem that we need to address. Classism. We have a class system that we need to address. I think those two things have become stronger than our theological differences. Even if we have the same theology, classism and racism still exists among us. That's a big challenge. And I see it as our biggest obstacle for finding our collective concerns. Racism among Muslims and classism among Muslims. To me, that's what really matters, that we overcome these things. This is my opinion. Right? This is my thought. But I can document and show where it's a problem. And I think all of us know that already. And we have to figure that out. So I would say immediately, immediately, I think that's what we need to work on. And we're doing it, but that's a tall order. So I think that's something that I would like to expound upon in terms of when it's all done, what really matters, that we come up with our own agenda and we remove all the obstacles that prevent us from having our agenda. We need a collective Muslim lobby in the United States of America that takes in consideration a collective concern and agenda that all of us participate in. And we need bodies of leadership to help facilitate that. With that, I'll pass to my other imams. And these are my points that I open up with. Barakallahu bikum.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته everyone. Alhamdulillah. Feeding off of what Imam Amin just mentioned. But first, one thing I want to say, I intended to mention it last week, but we got so involved in our conversation that I forgot. But Imam Abdullah from Minara, the Muslim Community Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico, he wanted us to announce on the Roundtable our gathering that we're going to be having in a couple of days in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so we want to announce to you all that we will be there this Friday and Saturday, and inshallah come out and build with us. If you're in the area, or if you're not, and you can if you have the ability to come to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to hear the Imam of the Boom Bap live and direct, give the Juma Khutbah out there, and our other gatherings and sittings and building and all of that, come through. If Imam Abdul Rauf is listening, or Sheikh Kashif is listening, maybe you can put the information in the comments, inshallah. Also, if you're friends with me on Facebook and all of the other imams, you can go to our page. You can see the flyer there for Albuquerque, New Mexico, Friday and Saturday. Alhamdulillah. So I wanted to mention that. And after that, I want to mention a verse from Surah Al-Imran, the family of Imran, chapter number 3. Hey, Kasher said, please bring coats. It's cold. SubhanAllah, I was about to text y'all today and ask y'all what the weather was like. SubhanAllah. I'm thinking it's going to be hot. But anyway, Surah Al-Imran, chapter number 3, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold to the rope of Allah all together, and do not be divided. A command from Allah. What verse is that? 102, 101, 102, 103. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold to Allah's rope all together. Do not be divided. You said something, Imam Faheem? Oh, I thought you said something.
Yeah, he did. He said, why you quoting verses? You don't know where they at.
I did not say that.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, that's ayah 102, sort of.
Shukran. So Allah commands us in the Quran to work together. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah says, Ta'awanu alal birri wa taqwa. Cooperate, collaborate with one another in righteousness, and and do not cooperate with one another with sin and transgression. So we have several commands throughout the Quran and in the Hadith commanding us to work together. And with that in mind, to answer the question, or to come behind what Imam Amin just mentioned, one of the things that I'm suggesting that we do, us, the Black Imams Roundtable, is to seek out other collaboratives of Black Imams. Why Black Imams? Imam Amin just made passing reference to the racism that some of us choose to ignore that exists among Muslims today. So reach out to other Black collaboratives of Black Imams, other Imams who work together like we work together, and see if we can collaborate with them. Maybe pick a handful of agenda items that we can agree on and work together with them. One of those agenda items dealing with politics. What do the Muslims want? You know, they have in the back of the final call. What do Muslims want? The Muslim program. What do Muslims believe? What do Muslims want? We establish a real program. What do Muslims want? And what we're working towards. So that's one thing. Identifying other Black Muslim majalis or collaboratives of imams, and see if we can come with agenda items, at least one of those be how we engage this political system, and under that agenda item we have what the Muslims want politically in this country, so that when regional and national elections take place, we already have our agenda. We know what we want. And we be able to speak for at least a significant demographic in this country. This is who these imams represent. I think we have to do that. And I know a lot of people don't say, well, why you ain't just say just Muslims? Listen, there are too many Muslims that don't check in. You know, the rappers have this thing, you know, you come to your town, you come to their town, you better check in. Let's be honest. The other Muslims don't respect us enough to check in or to value what we consider valuable, what we would put on an agenda. That's reality we have to face. And that's just part of it. But I intended my introduction to be short. So that's what I have by way of introduction. So I hope what I said was beneficial, and I'll pass it to Imam Faheem. Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. Alhamdulillah, we'd like to welcome you all to tonight's podcast. We thank you for being here. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us benefit in this gathering tonight, inshallah ta'ala. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from us. So just to follow up on the ground rules, make sure we like and, share this on our platforms, inshallah, and make sure we get the donating, So, we ask for a minimum of $10 per person, inshallah. And, if you could do more, you absolutely should do more, because it's something that will go on your scale. And, the more you do, the more rewards you get. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase you all in every good. I mean, and so, Yeah, this is a very important topic that we can go a lot of ways with. When it's all done, what really matters, leading up to this presidential election, I have some, they might be controversial views, I'm not going to expound on it too much, but, every time the election comes around, yeah, I'm just a little bit, every time the election comes around, and, we often hear people say, that our ancestors, they died for us for our right to vote. And that is partly true, but they didn't die for us to be reduced to a choice between two people who are totally incompetent in running this country, who do not have our best interests at heart. That's not what they died for us to have a choice between two people who are totally out of touch, two people that, we don't have any idea who they are, what they're about. One of them is just, some power trip, and the other one has no idea what they will do if they get elected, And so that, that kind of rubs me the wrong way every time when this voting comes around and everybody's saying you should vote. And of course your vote, counts to some extent. But we already seeing, if you've been watching some of the reports outside of the major social news networks, there's already been voter tampering. And then there's this big thing about, allowing people who are coming into this country and who are not citizens, allowing them to vote. And this is against federal law, And so there are a lot of things that are going on with the voting, and not just in this election, every election. We just get to see. There was a picture I was looking for. It was showing it was a person that was on the podium, and they were dressed as a wolf, and they were addressing the sheeps. And so the people in the audience were sheep, and they said, I promise when I get elected, the first thing I'm going to do is like become a vegetarian or something like that, right? Or something like that. And so there's always truth and jest. And, so some of these things, you have to hear what are they going to talk about as soon as they get elected. So I'm not a big fan of the political scene, but, I actually did. I went out, I popped out, pulled up, and I hopped in the booth today and I voted, mashallah. So I did my civic duty. Although I wasn't really, excited about it, there were hardly any, I remember the last time I voted, there were like a number of parties and candidates that you could vote for. And, we only get to hear about the Republican candidate and the Democratic candidate, but there are a number of other ones, and on the ballot today, I only seen like two other candidates, and and I was like, wow, what happened? So today on the local scene, I did a lot of write-ins. I did about 3 or 4 write-ins, So and well, I did my duty, But I always think about this statement, by one of our Black revolutionaries. It's Aada Shakur. She had a statement in her autobiography. She said that nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. That nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. And so in that vein, we are appealing to a system that never even considered us human, that us having our, liberation and our freedom as foundational Black Americans, that was never part of the plan, and ever since then, where we were free, the Emancipation Proclamation, so-called freedom, they've used everything at their disposal to keep us, marginalized and subjugated and keep us away from so many rights that were due to us as citizens, as American citizens, and even with this voting thing, it's not hard to believe that, a lot of this stuff is rigged, a lot of the stuff is rigged. They say the system's not broken, it's fixed. The system's not broken, it's fixed, And so these are a lot of things that, just on my mind with the voting, but still, I voted. And so we'll see what the outcome is. But as Imam Amin was saying, we have to really start using our power of voting as a collective. Oftentimes, we don't have the same goals and the same mindset. We are all the same people. We have the same struggle. We identify with the same things as a collective, but we have too many different views many times. And that when in these issues of politics, we need to really focus on one thing, and we need to take a page out of the book of other people. There are people who got their lobby, you read about AIPAC, they get their voting, power together, and they get their money together, and they demand what they want for Israel. They demand what they want for Israel. We need to do something similar, that we demand what we want for our people in this country, but we have to all be on the same page, and that's where we struggle often. And hopefully, that we'll see it in our lifetime, or our children and grandchildren, inshallah ta'ala, will start seeing that, to start going a different way. One of the things that is a bright spot, that they were reporting that a lot of people were starting to, a lot of African Americans were starting to shy away from the Democratic Party, and, because traditionally, I don't know where it started from. And of course, I know some of you politically astute people, can, tell us about, when did we start voting Democrat just automatically? When did we get to the point where Democrats just have our best interests at heart? And I believe that Democrats were really, it was the KKK that founded them, if I'm not mistaken, and if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But, just thinking about this stuff, and the game that they playing with was this two-party system. And, Brother Bilal Shabazz that joined us last week, mashallah, he gave a lot of insightful things. And, that we need to do away with the two-party system, really. I think that's been plaguing us for so many years. And we just been automatically voting Democrat. And now we're just voting for people because they share the same skin color, And, it's just a big mess. And really, it's really an indication to where America as a country is going. It's really going down the drain. This is the idea of democracy has long been gone. This country's been sold up the river since, I think from the time when Woodrow Wilson was president, and when people, the deep state took over, and, the Zionists really got control of the government, and could, even no matter who's president, who controls the House and the Senate, a lot of them are paid for, they're on the payroll, and there's just so much corruption. And many times, from my view, that, we try to enter into this political arena with pure hearts and pure minds, and trying to think that these people have our best interests at heart, but they've all been bought and sold, and they're serving the interests of the people who pay for them, and that's why reparations and money for us, and really having a collective economic plan for us, powernomics. When we start talking about powernomics and what's going to work for us, then I think we'll start seeing a change. But all of us got to be on the same page, and but it's going to be interesting to see, because you all know that the election has already been decided who's the president, right? And it's not Trump or Kamala. It's Netanyahu. Netanyahu is the president. I don't care who you voted for. The prime minister of Israel is the president. And the people that they, have in control in this country, who are Israel firsters, they are the ones who are controlling the narrative, and they are our voices overseas, where, none of that stuff is what we want to do as a people in this country, and so, yeah, I could go on a rant, but I don't want to talk about that too much. But, we really need to get some power behind our vote, and the power, and this is America, this is a capitalistic society. Money is power, so you got to have a financial stronghold. You got to have money to back up what you're saying. And so that's what we need to do as a collective, where we have, some type of treasury, and then as we are a community inside of a community, as Muslims, We need to start looking at, Islamically, how do we get like, regional Baitul Mals? How do we get, where we bring back the pillar of zakat, where we really paying this on a regular scale, and then we're using it to build institutions, and we're using it for all of the things that zakat is supposed to be used for, to develop the, the Islamic, infrastructure, inshallah ta'ala. And so a lot of those things we really need to explore. But and as Imam Naeem said, and also Imam Amin, that's why we're concentrating on getting people who are like-minded like us, black imams, because we have to do for self. That's still a real thing that we're talking about in 2024. We still have to do for self, because nobody's going to do for us. They're going to continue to, overlook us and give other people rights that, we're still trying to get, that we've never gotten, that we've been fighting for, dying for, getting hosed down for, locked up for, hung for, just to be recognized as equal people in this country. And it's still not like that, And so, at some point we got to realize that enough is enough, and that, we had to do a different approach, Yeah. And so we have to really, start locking down. And a lot of this, as Gil Scott Heron said, the revolution won't be televised, it'll be live, but it won't be on Facebook. It'll be live, but it won't be on Facebook. It will be on real time, but social media is not the way that we're going to be doing it. It's a tool that we can use, but in order to organize, we have to be on the ground, and we have to really connect with each other, and everybody has to have the same goal, the same concept, and hopefully that we'll be able to get some of those things done, even on a small scale, because, we can celebrate small successes that will grow into bigger successes, inshallah. And the more people that are putting the work in and going in the same direction, inshallah, then it'll start to grow. Because you know how we are as a people, when it's time to get it off on the ground, the first thing we do is oppose it. Man, that's not going to work. And then when it started growing, then everybody, how can I be down? And then that's when I got to go in iced tea mode. What's up? You say you want to be down, ease back. A little sucker get beat down. You had to throw that in there, man. Yeah, but we missed that ball a lot, where we was really trying to build and go through the struggle and put in all the painstaking efforts to build something, that's when a lot of people are missing. So that is my opening statements, inshallah. And so I look to hear from other imams and also people in the audience. But I hope you all did vote. Don't use my perspective to not vote. It is important to an extent, So, and as they said, if you don't vote, don't complain, right? Somebody put that on the page the other day, and I was like, the only people that complain is the ones that voted and their candidate didn't win. They're the only ones that be complaining, So, and Allah knows best. So I'll turn it back over to Imam Amin.
So I had, just from listening, I have a few things that I think is very important to discuss from what we laid out. I want to mention a verse of the Quran and a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ to put in context what I'm going to say. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. That you are the best nation brought from mankind, brought from the human race. You enjoying what is right, you forbid what is wrong, and you believe in Allah. This is Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala addressing the nation of Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That it's an integral part of our practicing of Islam, being the best nation of all the previous nations, that we do al-amru bil ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar, that we enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong. What is right is defined by Ash-Shari'atul Islamiyya, the Islamic sacred law. And what is wrong is defined by Ash-Shari'atul Islamiyya, the Islamic sacred law. That's where we get our definition, right and wrong, good and bad. That's where we get it from, not intellect. As Asharis, our belief is that good and bad is not known by the human intellect or judgment or opinion, al-aql, right? Rather, good and bad is known by ash-shara', by the sacred law. What Allah revealed to Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what he explained and conveyed to the people. That's how we distinguish between something that is good, bad, obligatory, recommended, permissible, disliked, unlawful, valid, invalid. That's our standard as Muslims. So from that point, we're going to know everything that we need to do. So in terms of good and bad, right and wrong, then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever among you sees a munkar, a bad doing, an evil, and let him change it with his hand. If he cannot, he doesn't have the ability, let him change it with his tongue. And if he does not have the ability, let him hate it in the heart, in his heart, and that is the weakest degree of faith, meaning when he cannot do anything else. So we have an obligation to put forth good, ensure good and benefit, and remove and block harm. That's a religious obligation. So for us, as Muslims, we should never get into the dispute of which party is the right party. All parties are the wrong party in our view. Why? Because all parties contradict the sacred law. That is our standard for knowing good and bad, benefit and harm. Whether it's the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Green Party, another independent party, all of them are going to contradict in some way a major principle in the sacred law. So we have to, as Muslims, understand that. I was teaching my students at the university today before this. I said, listen, that's our standard. Our standard is that the best way for the human beings to follow is the sacred law of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's reality. And from our creedal standpoint, it is unlawful to believe other than that. To believe that there is another way that is superior, that is more beneficial to human beings than the way that Allah revealed and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam conveyed, that's a conviction of blasphemy. I'm not talking about in terms of what we can actually implement. We're talking about at the conviction level. At the conviction level, that's how we feel. Now, so We have to live in a society that's not reality. How do we engage? It is wisdom. Wisdom. And our scholars, they told us about wisdom. They said the wise person is not the one who can distinguish between good and bad or good and evil. That's not the wise person. The wise person is the one who can distinguish between the best of the good in terms of securing benefit and the least harmful of the bad in terms of blocking harm. That's the wise person. So that takes a lot of reflecting, because every party you vote for, you may get some benefit, and you also may help establish a harm. And the scale for that is the sacred law. Let me give you an example. How we got played in this election collectively as Muslims. So every group of Muslims are voting, like everybody else, for their concerns, what is prominent to them. And I seen it. And even myself, I voted. I didn't even vote the way I really wanted to vote, because I had to vote in thinking of benefit and harm, the benefit that I can secure and the harm that I can avoid through my voting. That what went through my mind. Maybe you don't know, but myself and most of us here, we have a revolutionary mentality, right? Most of us, these three imams, we don't mind mixing it up. Right? So the way we think, most of our people are not ready for that type of thought. That's realistic, right? We ain't trying to go there. It's just being black imams, we know that. What we're willing to do, most of our people think we crazy. And I know these imams, and I know what we do. I know most of our people are not cut like that. That's just real. And if you try to make them like that, you're going to break them. They ain't there, bro. They're not going to make the sacrifices to bring about what you're talking about. They're not doing it. Forget about it. You are deluded if you believe that. And you're actually going to harm them. The dalil of that, sometimes we just ask for the minimum money and we don't get it with all of us together. That lets you know right there. Since I'm making a shameless plug, let me put that up again while we at it. Prove me wrong, right? But what we ask to do weekly, we don't always do it. And we're always over the number to do it. Right now, what we ask for, the minimum we say, let's to get this work done, we doubled that in numbers right now. And we're probably tripled from people who are going to view, or 4 times, or as the people that do the analytics, they said 10 times. So if we really were serious, we would be way over the little bit we request just to keep it going. So what we can derive from that is we like to hear it, but we ain't really about that, how they say you ain't really about that life, right? Like you ain't really cut like that. And you need to understand that. So I'm saying that not in a way of criticizing, but a way of reality. So we got this revolutionary mindset. We go hard. And a lot of times people don't want to go hard in the paint like that. Let me give you an analogy. And I know all y'all, because most of us are from the inner city, or a great many of us. You ever be in a fight and you would tell somebody, don't break it up. If you break it up, you in it. Don't break it up. If you break it up, you in it. Because a lot of times, the one who breaking up gets you punched in the mouth, right? You breaking up the fight and you grab me and his hands is free and he hit me in the mouth. You in it, right? Don't break it up or you in it. You know that. Listen, I'm just talking about how we come up, right? I'm not promoting violence. I'm just giving you an analogy. It's a figurative analogy of what we're talking about. So a lot of us are not really in it. We just, bystanders. We got our popcorn, but we ain't getting in that. You have to take into reality that element. So our scale of what we can do when we talk about harm and benefit, we got to really consider the seriousness of our level of engagement. And that's why you got to figure out the best of the good that's going to secure the most benefit and the least harmful of the bad to push away the harm. So during the election, getting back to my point, people were voting, including myself, with this in mind, and we started fighting each other. If you vote for this, you're voting for genocide. If you vote for this, you're going against black people. If you vote for this, you right? You wasting your vote. All this stuff. And the reality is, whoever we vote for, there's going to be some benefit and there's going to be some harm. And everybody is trying to see their benefit and avoid their harm, right? What we have to do is come together and collectively figure for all of us. Me, myself, I'm going to be honest. And I'm vulnerable when I be honest, but I'm telling you how I feel. I, myself, am sick and tired of cheering for you and you booing for me. If you get my point. We, as African-American Muslims, we show nothing but love. But when it comes back towards us, we get nothing but rejection. When it's your concern, we gotta jump on the bandwagon. When it's our concern, it is our concern. I am sick of that. Sick and tired. Not only am I sick and tired of that, I'm sick and tired of tap dancing Negroes who keep going for it. I'm tired of that from one end, and I'm tired of the tap dancing Bojangles Negroes in the name of Islam who keep going for it to be accepted into nothing. That's me. All right, I got it out. It's toned down, but I had to get it out. It bothers me to my core. Because while everyone benefits, we constantly lose when we weigh benefits and harm. Everyone is benefiting, we're constantly losing. I was talking to a younger Imam in his 20s, and we were talking about what we need to do as Black Imams and how we need to engage. You know what he said to me? I was telling him what he needs to do as a younger Imam, elder Imam to a younger Imam. He said, yeah, Imam, that sounds great if we still exist by then. Because I was talking about a 20-year plan. He said, that sounds great if we still exist. Think about that. And what he meant, not that we're dead. that we're irrelevant, right? We're Muslim, but we don't count. Heck, that's happening now. The Black Muslim don't count right now. If you look, Imam Amin, be nice. Be nice. But if you see the Black Muslim, they don't even consider them at all. They don't. When they're making decisions, you never see them call a council, as Imam Naeem was talking about, of Black imams and say, here's what we plan on doing. What is your opinion in it? And how is what we're doing going to affect y'all? And let's have consultation on that. I'm going to ask you, from observation of any of you who have known, have you ever seen when they're lobbying that they come to the Black Muslim community and say, what's your thoughts in this? I want to ask you that. Because you have several groups of Black imams, several groups throughout the country, not just these 3 imams. You have Black, majority Black Majlis Shura. They are gathering. Do you see it? They don't come and say, we're making this political decision. Y'all natives of this land. Listen, before we do anything, we're going to check in. Like Imam Naeem said. Do they do that? They step right over us and go put an agenda that has nothing to do with us and never has our input. This is a fact. So when Imam Naeem mentioned the need of Black leadership, listen, I'm in a lot of rooms, a lot throughout the country, and I watch how that goes. So I know firsthand, this is a reality. Until we realize this is a problem and we address it and we have our own agenda that we say, listen, you don't get our support without including our agenda. We're not just jumping on your bandwagon at all. And we can't be made to think that because I want to include myself, I'm going against you. No. That's not going to work. Yes, I think about you. I love you as my Muslim brother, but I love myself first. Why? That's Islam. Ku anfusakum wa ahlikum. Save yourselves. You know, when all of you ride the plane, which we'll be doing in a few days, they tell you, put on your mask first. You put on somebody else. Put on your mask. You have to put on your mask. You're making decisions that don't include us. So I agree with Imam Naeem that we need to find other Black imams that have come together as a body, and we all come together to decide what is our agenda as African American Muslims. And really, why is that important? Because we're the best as Muslims to combat the challenges that we face in America as Muslims, because that's what we've been doing from the onset. Others got the space they got after our work. So how is it that now we're irrelevant in the discussion. They don't even check in. Don't even have a discussion. That's our fault. That's nobody else's fault. That is us needing to come together and not being shamed to not speak the truth when we see it. Someone asked me a question, and I'm going long. I'm sorry, but I got a lot, right? From Imam Naeem and Imam Faheem, y'all gave me a lot of stuff to talk about. But I want to talk about something.
Hurry up, man, because I got something else.
Right, good. A person came to me. We were in a gathering. So we agreed to have the gathering. And we agreed to meet after the gathering. So a person says to me, when I see him, because he didn't do what we agreed to do, and I said to him, yo, why you didn't do what you were supposed to do? He said, I was waiting for you to do it. And I was trying to figure out how to advise you. I said, okay, you was waiting for me. And I didn't reach out to you. Why didn't you reach out to me? They wouldn't address it. But you know why they didn't reach out to me? Because the underlying thing is in the mind, subconsciously, you black, you got to reach out to me. I'm not reaching out to you. And I identified that because I know the pattern. I said, no, make sure you reach out to me. Not that I would reach out to you, but I know if I don't reach out to you, because of your mindset, you will never reach out to me, and me reaching out to you would be the dumbest thing I could do because of the way you think. If you understand what I'm saying. That really is politics. We are those people. Yes, I'm gonna reach out to you. And you will take that as a weakness from us. So I can't reach out to you. You must reach out to us first. You must come to us and bring that down so we can work. Because we've already reached out to you and you've betrayed us. So no longer do we reach out to you. You reach out to us to show that you really have goodwill for us in the first place. And I'm speaking about that as experience. I'm not talking about that one incident. I've seen how when we do the lamb thing, others do the slaughter and sacrifice thing. We go bah, they go Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. That's go for us. And we got to change that. And we're on the platter. Be careful with this. And if we come in a group, it'll look totally different. But that takes some courageous people. That takes courageous people. That take a revolutionary mindset. That's part of negotiating. If you negotiate from a position of weakness, you don't negotiate. You compromise. If you negotiate from a position of weakness, you don't negotiate, you compromise. So we have to build our own strength so that we can negotiate and not always compromise and sell ourselves to slaughter. I'm gonna stop there, but I have 3 hours of myself of stuff, right? But I'm gonna pause right there. We need a real talk about how to do this, getting black imams and groups, because there's reasons why we don't come together. Right? There's reasons. Right? And I'm telling you, I watch if Black Muslims don't start following Black leadership and Black Muslim leadership don't get together and come up with a plan, we gonna be obsolete. Because their political movement is to step right over us. They'll go work with the kuffar before they'll work with us. They will work hand in hand with the Democrats, with the Republicans, with the Green Party, but I'm not working with you Black Negroes. If I can use you to get in that seat, I will, but I'm not working with you. And the only way they will work with us and listen to us is when we say no more. No more. Absolutely not. But as Winnie Mandela said, in my revolutionary spirit, we got to find those who will betray us and take them to the top of the pole in the center square. But all right, I'll leave it there. Y'all got my point. Because we do have those. We have those house Negro Muslim imams and leaders who are afraid to offend or even make Mr. Charlie uncomfortable. You always uncomfortable, but you never want to make him uncomfortable. Make him uncomfortable. For the benefit of your own community. Listen, I know someone told me, man, Imam Amin, he's too extreme. I watch every day Black Muslims be treated like crap. And they just go, MashaAllah. I watch. Atlantic City, when you used to say Muslim and leadership, you used to see a Black Muslim, African-American Muslim. Today is only one African-American Muslim true recognized leader in the city, and the rest of everybody else, and they never consult Blacks about nothing. I watch it every day. And guess what we do? We'll oppose the Black leadership and get nothing from anyone else. This is a habit. I see it. I see it. And for me, we can't give that as a legacy to our children. Your children are not going to stay in Islam as a slave. That's not going to happen. They may be Muslim, but they're going to go somewhere else to find some freedom. Because when the Masjid and the Islamic school becomes a plantation, their very nature is going to rebel against that. And if they never see themselves as a dignified, responsible, accountable authority in that situation, they ain't going to want no parts of it. The youth are very keen and very revolutionary. Trust me, we are making a mistake to continue in this way. Collectively, since we're talking about who we should be voting for, who we should be organizing for, it should be us. Not Jill Stein, not Kamala Harris, not Donald Trump. The first people we should be thinking about is us. And then, from that point, negotiating with others. That's my long-winded 10% of what I have to say. But I'll stop there.
Hey man, you running for mayor of Atlantic City on the low or something? What's going on, man?
No, actually, I'm watching us and my heart is crying that we have everything we need to fix it, but we scared to death. We're scared to death to challenge this unjust system that we see right in front of us. It's injustice, but we scared to death. Scared to death. That's a big problem. And we actually think everybody's ice is colder than us. Ours. We can't do it. We black. You know, we niggas, man. We can't do it. You know, niggas, man. Niggas can't do nothing. This is the subconscious stuff. I know people don't like the word. I don't even like the feeling. Forget the word. The actual reality of that. I don't like it. And you know, y'all know us. I've been working for years to do for us as a community, collective. What do you think all these conferences about? African-American Islamic. I've been trying, and I watch us just, nah, man, we got to go tap dance for Mr. Charlie. We won't do for ourselves. Collectively. That's why Imam Naeem has mentioned that. I'm sorry, I go on and on and on and on. But really, 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 when we look at it, we have a lot of work to do collectively. All of our people are going to higher institutions that are ran by other than us. Right? So they want to get a PhD in Islamic studies. They want to get a master's degree in Islamic studies. They got to go to somebody else. They want to learn traditional Islam. They got to go to somebody else. Because we not establishing, and we all went overseas. We studied, we got degrees, and we ain't built nothing. Do you see the pain in that? I mean, all right. I know you know the pain. Talking to the choir. Go ahead. So, no, I'm not running for mayor. I actually don't like politics, but I realize you got to be diplomatic and political to get anything done.
Absolutely. MashaAllah, that was a lot of jewels dropped, Imam. I just want to tie it in from another angle now, because you mentioned about, you know, how all of these parties are really, you know, they're really not just. And, you know, us as Muslims, we have to base it on what Allah says and what the Prophet ﷺ says to find, you know, what is morally right and what is just, right? And of course, when you vote, you know, there's going to be some harm and some benefits, and we vote for the candidates, you know, who profess the most benefit for us, or who try to speak to our concerns, which is very minimum. But I want you all to, I want to share this book. And this book is called Battlefield America, The Battle for the American People. Battlefield America, the war on the American people. And this author's name is John W. Whitehead, right? And it's a very important book to read, right? Because he wrote an article recently, and that it ties in, because no matter what demographic we represent in America, whether we Muslim, non-Muslim, black, white, rich, poor, he wrote a very interesting article that he said that there are going to be some post-election truths that are going to be true no matter who wins. And this is probably one of the scariest things. And so in this article, he says that, you know, that the outcome of this election won't change any of these things, that war will continue, drone killings will continue, surveillance will continue, censorship of anyone who criticizes the government will continue, the government's efforts to label dissidents as extremists and terrorists and attack on our freedoms, that will continue, police shootings will continue, SWAT team raids will continue, highway robbery meted out by government officials will continue, corrupt government will continue, profit-driven prisons will continue, and the militarization of the police will continue. And so some of these things are not going to change. And so some of the other things he mentioned in this article is the undermining of the Constitution, you know, that they've been doing ever since 9/11. They've been chipping away of our freedoms with the Patriot Acts, a lot of things that happens in the wake of 9/11. are just slowly chipping away at our freedoms because they're trying to circumvent the Constitution. And the government's war on the people and spying and surveillance and taking away all these freedoms, that will continue. You know, people won't be able to express their First Amendment. That's being muzzled. And you know how America is really turning into a police state. He also mentions that the shadow government, the deep state, the police state, the military, industrial complex, all of that will still continue, no matter who wins. And so how this is continue with this two-party bureaucracy and working on the people. There's an assault on the American people, and the assault is increasing not just on Black people. You know, we've already been marginalized. It's going to get worse for us. But the demographic, the divide in America is growing between class now, not just between Black and white. It's growing between class. So it's going to the super rich, the super elite, and then the poor. That's what it's going to, you know, if people are not paying attention. And so they're willing to let, you know, all of the, you know, this, you know, white Anglo-Saxon, what is it called? White Anglo-Saxon Protestant, these WASP, they're going to let the bottom fall out on them, you know, in order for them to gain complete financial power. Another thing he mentions in this article is that the government's manipulation of national crisis in order to expand its powers that will continue unabated. And so they allow these things to happen with homelessness and poverty and crime and all that, so they can continue the police state. And so the police are going to increase and government intervention is going to increase, but your liberties are going to decrease, you know, and that's going to be across the board. You know, that's going to be across the board. And then the other thing that he mentions, and some of that is in his book that I posted here, but this is an article that he wrote, and he said endless wars that will enrich the military industrial complex, that will continue, you know, that will go on. You know, they increase the war budget every year. I think it's I forget how much it is, but I think it's almost in the trillions, if I'm not mistaken. Government corruption will continue, and it's just so many things is going to be happening. And this ties into what we're talking about, and we're probably all talking about the same thing, you know, where we really have to get on the same page with everything and really concentrate our efforts and concentrate our resources. And we need to do another great immigration, an American hijra, if you will. An American hijra, if you will, you know, where all these people are doing this gentrification and trying to take these cities over. Another idea we need to entertain is that we go back to the other lands. We need to go back down south. You know, we need to go back to farming, agriculture, building our own, living together, you know, because that's going to be important. That's going to be vital, you know. And just so, like, no matter who wins, these things will continue. And, you know, and so that's, you know, some of the concerns that we have, what makes us feel like that voting really has no significance for us, because all of these things will continue to go on. They will get increasingly worse, you know. And so there's something to think about why we need to really be together as a people, you know. And Imam Naeem mentioned the ayah, وَأَتَسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, right? That we all have to hold fast to the rope of Allah. And for us as Black American Muslims, the ones who have been having the most experience of this hell called America, with racism as its foundation, racism permeated through all of its institutions, everything directed at us to make sure that we never rise up, that we never gain any real liberty or any real freedom or any progress. You know, a lot of the laws that's in America is based just on that. It's on race. Keep these people down at all costs. And so now as they grow economically and the classes separate, okay, we could keep them down and even keep the other, you know, degenerate people, you know, that don't have no bread, you know what I mean, keep them down too, you know. And so that's why we need to start exploring some of the things that are already in place with Muslims. You know, we need to look into Muslims who have these compounds, who have some of these acres of land. I think we were talking, the one brother, and I think he's in Tennessee or Memphis. What was the sheikh's name? And there are a couple things going on. And Brother Bilal mentioned something as well. You know, we need to go and lock down one of these small towns, you know, and own it. You know, have our own police force, have our own hospitals. Another, another installment of Tulsa. You know, a Black Wall Street. You know, and I think sometimes we'd be scared to do that, because when you talk about that, I've heard people say like, "Oh man, they bombed the city, they burned it down." Yeah, that was in 1921. Ain't no way we would let them do that nowadays, man. No way, right? Not with all of the resources that we got, all of the knowledge that we got, and then as Muslims who are at the head of this thing, you know, we rely on Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, so there are some things that we need to look into and really start putting our people in place, because when this thing just start folding, you know, when these urban areas start becoming full of, you know, disarray, you know, and one of the things that they're hoping for, that they talk about now is all of the violence that's going to take place if Trump wins, you know, and it's likely that he's going to win, you know, and that's going to create another anarchy, you know, mob violence, racial violence, all of these things that we need to start being prepared for, where people will be indiscriminately attacking people, you know, everybody, it'll be a go on everybody. And so we need to start really looking into those things like seriously, and really buckle down and not just talk about it, just make the motion, you know, carve out of land. And really, this is the American way. You carve out a piece of land, you move there, you set up your borders, and whoever comes in there, you stop them. If they're not from there, create our own sundown town. If you ain't a believer or somebody we vouch for, you can't come across that line. Put up signs at the joint, you know. Do not cross this line, you know. Make it I can't say it now, but yeah, these are some of the things we really need to explore, because as this thing goes on, like I said, it doesn't even matter who's going to be president. And in that respect, you know, they might do some good for the country, but most of it is going to be geared towards who is controlling them. All of the people who are not elected, everybody who is controlling the president, has the influence on the president, are people in the cabinet that you do not elect. You do not elect. And go look at all you got to do is, when the president gets elected, look who they start appointing, and then their political background. You know, most of them are Israel firsters. Some of them have dual citizenship. You know, go back and look from the time of, you know, George Bush, Clinton, Reagan. Look at all of the people who were in the cabinet who had the influence on them. You know, these were all, you know, the people with the small hats, you know, the Zionists. And that's going to be important, because they have come and they are infiltrated in government all over the place. And now they're getting even more bold, you know. You know that there was some years ago, I think it was after 9/11, and somebody was saying about, you know, told Netanyahu about America, you know, how are they going to retaliate if you do this? He said, "You telling me about America? Don't tell me about America. We have them in our pocket. We own America." You know, he boldly said that in his own record. You can look it up. You know, so these people are run by people who do not have our interests at heart at all, you know, at all, you know. And so we need to start looking, you know, deeper down the line, what we need to really do. And that's really need to, what I would call an American Hydra. You know, like the Great Immigration, when our people move from down south and they move up to the northern cities in Chicago, St. Louis, and all of those places, and they, you know, did for themselves. We need to do a reverse. You know, go back down south, go back in those places, go back in those towns. And one of the easiest way to identify them is the top 10 poorest towns that they put on those lists. Those are the ones that we need to target. You know, go make those towns, enrich those towns, build those towns, and have our people come to those towns. And like, we don't have to live together, but wherever we at, we are concentrated and we are doing for self, you know. And the Muslims need to be at the head of it, you know, because we're working off a divine order from Allah who's subhanahu wa ta'ala to enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong. So I ain't really long-winded, as you all know that, but I just had to throw that in there. And I just kind of interjected for a minute because it only makes sense that a genius comes at the end to clean all this up, you know. So I'll turn it over to Imam Naeem.
I thought you was gonna say I ain't long-winded like Imam Amin.
No, I ain't taking no shots at Otis. You know what I mean, Otis be talking about you in your face and act like he talking in general. he don't agree with some of the stuff we saying, so he try to Islamicize it. But it's cool. That's love, though. You know what I mean? But that's why we mesh. You know.
Subhanallah.
He think we ain't pick up on it, Imam Naeem. Yeah, we watch.
I gotta give you a Salim joint, Rahimahullah. So you know how they say, they be like, yo, Imam be talking about me in the khutbah. He always stepping on my toes. Salim said, Rahimahullah, he said, no, your feet is so big, no matter where he step on your toes.
Get your feet out the way. You don't want your toes stepped on, get your feet out the way.
Allahu Akbar. Abdullah. You know, I think a few years ago, Samira can correct me if I'm wrong. In one of my classes or online talks, I played a clip of Malcolm X, Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, rahimahullah. And I think I got a strike on YouTube or Facebook or both, I forget. Like copyright. Like these dudes got some nerve. They copyrighted Malcolm's words. So you can't play any clips of his lectures without them flagging it. I vaguely remember that. Samira, you need to yeah, she said yeah. So that's one of the things that's preventing me from doing something that I wanted to do years ago. And that is, I wanted to do what they call a reaction video to Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz's lecture, Message to the Grassroots. Out of all of Malcolm's speeches, that one is my favorite. It's so comprehensive. There's so much in there. But I think because, you know, he speaks like a black man, that a lot of people are entertained by it, but they miss everything in there because they're so caught up in their emotional enjoyment of the talk that they don't really catch what he's dropping. If I can find a way to do that, I will. I think some years ago, maybe like 10 years ago, I did that with his speech, The Ballot or the Bullet. But I don't think we were on YouTube yet. I think we were still on Blog Talk Radio. But there's a way, Samir, we got to put our heads together, figure out how I can do that. There's a way to do it. But we have to figure out how to do it because it's so important. If I was able to give you all homework assignments, usually when I say that, that means I want you to do it, right? If I was able to give you a homework assignment, my homework assignment would be for you to critically listen to that lecture, Message to the Grassroots. He gave it in 1963 in Detroit. And I have a written copy of that speech in front of me, and I just want to take certain parts out of it and for us to reflect, because everything he said in that talk, all you have to do is change some names up, change some titles, and everything is relevant and is going on right now. You can literally give the exact same speech and just change some names, and nobody would not believe that you're not talking about what's going on now. If they didn't know the speech, they would think you wrote that speech and you're talking about stuff that's going on right now. And a lot of Malcolm's speeches are like that. But one thing he said, instead of airing our differences in public, we have to realize we're all the same family. And when you have a family squabble, you don't get out on the sidewalk. If you do, everyone calls you uncouth, unrefined, uncivilized, savage. If you don't make it at home, you settle it at home. You get in the closet, argue it out behind closed doors. And then when you come out on the street, you pose a common front, a united front. And this is what we need to do in the community, in the city, and in the state. We need to stop airing our differences in front of the white man. Put the white man out of our meetings and then sit down and talk shop with each other. That's what we have to do. And if you pay attention, like everything I just mentioned here, if you just change some names and titles and stuff, everything fits. Like a lot of these conversations we be wanting to have with people behind closed doors in the closet, but they don't do that. They're not open to conversation. They rather call you out in public on their platform. They don't want to form a united front. But this is something that we need to do, and we need to strive to do, because those type of videos, they get the most likes, the most views, is when we taking shots and throwing shade at each other. And this is something that we have to pull back on. And we have to become intelligent enough to recognize that discussing an issue is different than discussing people. Like a lot of people, like we just had discussion about Aqidah several weeks ago, and a lot of us are still not clear on the difference of takfir, declaring specific people to be non-Muslims, and the issue of kufr, those beliefs, those actions, those things that constitute disbelief. A lot of us, we still don't even know the difference between that yet. So if we talk about a belief, a statement, or something that is tantamount to disbelief, in our minds, we're saying that, oh, he just called someone a kafir. And you're not even talking about someone. You're talking about a belief. Someone that got their toes stepped on because their feet too big in the area of belief, right? So that's one thing, right? And I want to move a little bit forward in the speech. And this is the part of the speech, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, the whole section. This is the part of the speech that most people remember. When usually people refer to this speech, they're talking about this part of the speech. After he got finished talking about nationalism and revolution, he said, to understand this, you have to go back to what the young brother referred to as the house Negro and the field Negro back during slavery. There were two kinds of slaves, the house Negro and the field Negro. The house Negroes, they lived in the house with master. They dressed pretty good. And they ate good because they ate his food, what he left. They lived in the attic or the basement, but they still lived near the master. And they loved the master more than the master loved himself. They would give their life to save master's house quicker than the master would. If the master said, we got a good house here, the house Negro would say, yeah, we got a good house here. Whenever the master said we, he said we. That's how you can tell a house Negro. And that's very important, because one of the things that people miss during this part of the speech is the usage of pronouns. That's one thing that this speech taught me. When people are talking, pay very close attention to the pronouns they're using and who they identify with. When they say we and our, who are they grouping themselves with when they speak like that? If the master's house caught on fire, the house Negro will fight harder to put the blaze out than the master would. If the master got sick, the house Negro would say, what's the matter, boss? We sick. We sick. He identified himself with his master more than his master identified with himself. And if you came to the house Negro and said, let's run away, let's escape, let's separate, the house Negro will look at you and say, man, you crazy. What you mean separate? Where is there a better house than this? Where can I find better clothes than this? Where can I eat better food than this? That was the house Negro. In those days, he was called a house nigger. And that's what we call him today, because we still got some house Negroes running around here. Imam Amin was talking about this earlier, but he's talking in the Muslim context. You got a lot of house Muslims and field Muslim. All you have to do is change the titles. The same thing still applies. It's easy to read this whole speech because as I'm reading, I'm actually hearing Malcolm's voice. And subhanAllah. Let me skip ahead a little bit. So he talked a little bit about the house Negro, and he talked about the field Negro. And he said, when he was talking about the field Negro, I skipped ahead a little bit. The masses are the field Negroes. When they see this man's house on fire, you don't hear little Negroes talk about our government is in trouble. They say the government is in trouble. Imagine a Negro, our government. I even heard one say our astronauts. They won't even let him near the plant. And our astronauts, our Navy. That's a Negro that's out of his mind. A Negro that's out of his mind. Just as the slave master of that day used Tom, the house Negro, to keep the field Negroes in check, the same old slave master today has Negroes who are nothing but modern Uncle Toms, 20th century Uncle Tom. Now you have to say 21st century. To keep you and me in check, to keep us under control, keep us passive and peaceful and nonviolent. That's Tom making you nonviolent. I can go on and on and on. But I think it's prudent that during these times, with someone that we all agree had a gift of seeing things the way they really were in real time as they were happening, not in hindsight, like a lot of us do. It's clearly like a lot of us after something happens and then we see it clear. Malcolm saw it clear while it was happening. It's prudent, I think, that we go back to things like this, lectures like this that are relevant, and update them for our times and our context. And you don't have to do much updating. The stuff didn't change, most of it. It's just different names. It's the same thing that's going on. The only difference now is we are more asleep now than we were back then. And so the people that's running stuff, they are literally actually able to, like, it's amazing how, like, a lot of us can't see through this stuff. What's going on? I can give so many examples. But I don't want to do that because I use a lot of time reading quotes from the Message to the Grassroots. But I intend one day, and I had this intention for years, to do a reaction video to this speech. In other words, play part of it, stop, comment, and keep playing it, because it's more impactful when you hear it coming from his voice. Because just like when we interact with one another, right? If I text you, you don't hear the emotion or whatever. You're forced to assume how I'm feeling or what the context is. But if you hear me, if we speak to one another, it's clear what my emotional state is and what I'm trying to attend by, what I intend to convey by the inflection of my voice. But alhamdulillah. And I didn't read nothing from what I had written down by my notes. If it comes back around to me again, I will get into that, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Imam, Amin? Yeah.
I'm going to surprise you. I have to go in 10 minutes. Y'all can continue, but I need to go. So what I will say, yeah, Imam Faheem, I beat you to it. I gotta get out of here.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it till I see it.
Right. But I just want to, before I depart, and my brothers have the right to continue to go on, but that coalition of Black imams and leaders, I think is essential. And we tried. But some of the challenges we have, the biggest challenge was put on us and we got lifted off of us. Doctrine, religious doctrine, we could say theology, theological differences, and methodology. That is a big obstacle for us even sitting down. I was listening to a great Salafi influencer and Imam. You know, we say Wahhabi. And I don't think we need to change that. Unless we clear, I'm going to say that. I say Wahhabi and I don't use Salafi because of the lack of clarity. If we just
don't get soft now, Imam.
You heard what I said.
All right. We got to keep this guy in line, Imam Faheem.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Otis is 82 years old, man.
So what I'm saying though, I'm saying once we clear, then we can understand because it's understood. But when we still playing word games and trying to present pictures that ain't real, we got to be explicit, right? So when we say that, so I'm going back to I'm drifting. That Imam, I heard a speech by him, and I was like, mashallah, he's so correct, right? But I know we can't sit down because of our theological differences. I would sit down, but I know he's not going to sit down with me. Because I've put it out there, even with our own people, because you know we got our people that's 3453, that they friends with Wahhabi people. They homies. And we've tried to and y'all know that, let's sit down, let's talk. It don't get done. Because from their side, they've been indoctrinated so much. Don't sit with those deviants, don't smell their feet, but sit with the kuffar, smell their feet, sit right, but don't sit with those deviants. Those Ash'ari Sufis, don't even talk to them. So, unfortunately, they have, by default, a lot of our people's minds. And their minds are controlled by Saudi Arabia, the friend of Bush, Biden, Harris, whoever is in office, that's our people. To the point we even changed the doctrine we got you fighting your Black brothers with. We changing that right on the land in front of you. But you'll never attack them, but you'll attack us, right? Just to step on some toes, right? Right? Think about it. So we have a common thing we could share, and all we got to do is listen, be clear. We don't agree in Aqidah. We don't. We don't agree in the way we approach, but these matters we do agree in, and it affects us all. We could just talk about that. We could work together on that alone, right? And we don't have to attack each other when we're clear. This is our position. We don't agree with that. So there's going to be no mixing of faking. Now I know they're working on this collective problem together. It's like when we meet with Christians and Jews or non-Muslims in business or whatever we do, ain't none of us following each other's doctrine. We're working on a common good, and it's understood. we need to do that same thing among us. And we're working on this common good, this common thing, and we're going to figure it out. And maybe through that cooperation, we can address other issues. But I think we just got to be, like, right? We got to be straightforward, right? So I'm not going to come and act like I agree with you in Aqidah. I'm not doing that. And we can have that discussion if you want. But because I don't agree with you in Aqidah doesn't mean we have other things that we need to work on together, because we live in the same society. We're facing the same challenges. We both say we are Muslims, whether you agree with me or I agree. That ain't the point. We both, when others look at us, they just see Muslim. They don't see nothing else. So we have a common thing that we're dealing with. We realize that common thing. We work on that common thing together, and then we move forward, right? That's what we need to do. And we need to not be afraid to differ, right? We're going to differ, but we're going to have that discussion, right? And even like with us three, we don't agree on every single point, right? We don't. As Imam Faheem so eloquently put it, we don't. But that don't stop us from working together on a common objective, right? We still, despite how we may disagree on certain things, and Imam Amin may make an Islamic way to bust us up or whatever, at the end of the day, we still work together for a common good, right? We do it. So we can do the same thing with others, and others can do the same thing with us. We don't have to agree on everything. We're not, Allah didn't make us like that. But we do have some things that we must definitely work together. So I want to put this out in closing. All of those African-American imams and leaders that that share the common concern of Black Muslims and coming together as a block with an agenda, we down. We willing to sit at that table. And I agree with Imam Naeem. We don't need no one else in that room but us, right? Because we need to have a real talk. And the way we talk, not the way I learned to talk overseas and not the way you learn to talk overseas, the way we know how to talk to each other. We got to have that real conversation. You know, sometimes that conversation may be so real that it might get ugly. We can't even afraid to have it like that. It might get so real because it's just us in the room. And maybe it may get so heated where you got to get something off your chest. We know how to do that, right? I mean, sometimes that's what it go. I'm not suggesting violence. I'm saying it got to be that free. That, no, bro, I don't like how you say what you said either. You know what it is. But once we get past all that, let's go to work, right? Let's go to work. And I think we need to get at the table and do that, right? And then we'll be able to work as an ummah. Until we do that, other parts of the ummah just going to step right over us, right? So we got to get that issue together. Because I'm telling you, if we ever come together, we're going to change the whole game. And I ain't saying we got to agree on everything. I'm not saying that. But if we come together for a common interest, it's going to change the whole game. When they can no longer use Black leaders, use Black imams for whatever they want to use them for, they got to consult the body. They got to check in, like Imam Naeem said. The whole thing going to look different. Because if we in the room, they can't do that. They only do the stuff when we're not in the room. If we go in like a force, like we go anywhere, others get out the way. When we come, if we come, they getting out the way. They're going to assume this position, right? Pause. Like, we know that when we walk in the room, there's going to be a certain, and I do it sometimes just to make the point. These guys always plotting in my city, in Atlantic City. They always plotting to undermine the Black Muslims. Always, like we don't count. I walk in, proud Black Muslim, dignified Black Muslim. Sit you down. Right? I'm doing the talking here. You sit down. No, I go in just like that. Because that's how they present it, as if we don't count. No, when I go in there, you sit down. You sit down. You sit down. Oh, here he comes. Yeah, you sit down. You don't like how that feel, right? I don't like how you do that when we not around. You don't like that feeling when we come in and take over the room. I don't like the feeling when you do it when we not around, as if we don't count. So you'll go to council, you'll go to this, and you make your positions. While we ain't around, you in the back door sliding with some sellout politicians against us for your benefit. And then when we walk in, you're like, oh, they're bullying the place. Nah, we ain't bullying the place. We putting you in your place. And your place is not what you'll need on our necks. That's not your place. And I speak that because we see it. And someone said, well, why are you just calling it out? Because they don't have that conversation. They just betray us and go behind our backs. They won't even sit in front of us and have a real conversation. They actually will just betray us, period. That's it. Leave it at that. And guess what some of us will do? Help them. Help them betray us. Just to say, boss, we sick. Boss, we all right. Many of us are like that. You look, you don't have no control in the masjid, no representation, straight up servant position, and won't say a word, won't challenge. They vote, you never on the ballot. They voting for leadership in the masjid, you never on the ballot, but you go there every Friday. You can't make this stuff up. They have election for leadership of the masjid, you never on the ballot. You can't make this stuff up, really. And you be like, our masjid. Yeah, I go to this place. I go to this place. You mean you serving at that place? You never on the ballot. They hire imams, and you got qualified people, graduates, and they never are elected as the imam. Make that make sense. They go get an imam from overseas and skip over you in your own town. You Negroes, really? Come on, man. Seriously. But you ain't going with them deviants. This dude's raping your community, selling the worst atrocities happening in your community is by those people, and you right there with them. They selling all kinds of crap in the stores in your community, and won't, and then lead you, destroy, take the resources out your community, make your community more unsafe, make them more drug spread, helping facilitate that, take the resources to the suburbs, build a masjid, you go send your children to their stuff and never build nothing for yourself. That's the plight of Black America. And that's the plight, unfortunately, of a lot of Black Muslims. We watch it. They go, you have really had a majlis, and they go set up their own thing, don't pay your majlis no attention. You Negroes go sit down. and we don't say nothing. And then if we say something, we extreme. Oh man, he's all radical. He's on that black stuff. Really? What? Why it's haram to have black leadership? Why you never say, hey, why we not in charge? Why we never be the voice? And listen, guess what? You're the majority population in the city. You're the majority of the population in the city, and you're the most underserved of them. That's a problem. Yeah. And listen, this is undeniable facts. And I'm quite sure if we look, this not just Atlantic City. You go look around, you see the same thing happening, right? As one politician told me, if you want to see America at a whole, Atlantic City is an example of the whole America. Whatever you see happening here, you can see it is a reflection of what's happening in the country. And I know many of black imams who established Masjid, and they are on their way out, and so is the leadership of blacks in their masjid with them. Many of them. But we shouldn't discuss these things while everyone else are building stuff, and we're supposed to be in ummah. So we should fix this issue. The only way we're going to fix this issue if we be honest and we have a real discussion. But I know ain't nobody trying to have that discussion, because that means you got to actually do something. That means you actually got to challenge the status quo. You got to challenge that. And most of us don't want to do the work. We would rather them do it so we don't have the responsibility. We rather be led so we don't have the responsibility of leading. We'd rather be led because we don't want to assume the responsibility of leading. And we got to fix that. All right, I'm off my soapbox for the night. I have to go. I got to comfort all my Democratic relatives because it ain't looking pretty. Trump has 154 electoral votes, and Kamala Harris has 27. And, you know, black people might need an ice pack after this whooping. I don't know.
I was about to ask you. I was about to say, where you going, Otis?
It ain't looking good.
But I think you're looking at old numbers. From what I'm looking at now, Trump has 120 and Harris has 99.
I'm looking at CNN. What you looking at?
I don't know. Google.
Oh, man, that don't count. That's fake. Fake news.
They are rigged.
This is CNN. So it ain't looking good. And Trump is smiling.
Oh,
That's CNN. And CNN is all Democrat. So they yeah. I mean, it's still early, but it ain't looking pretty, right? You know, the last time Trump won, I was overseas, and I was watching. Man, I was in the Emirates at the time of the election, and I was looking at the faces of people on the news. I was like, dang, boy, they are bust up, right? But we survived Trump 1. We can survive Trump 2. Allah's with us. Inna Allaha ma'ana, right?
Amin.
But inshallah, may Allah, no matter what happens, our work is still going to be the same. We got to learn. We got to practice. We got to
call da'wah.
we got to give call to da'wah. and we gotta leave a legacy. So it ain't changed, no matter what happens, right? It don't matter. Still, we gotta try to enjoy what is right, forbid what is wrong. It's our work don't change. And let me say this: I was supposed to go, but I'll say this last thing as I'm walking out. Try to find the best of the good so we can secure some benefit and avoid the harm by finding the least harmful of the bad. And that's the scale we're working in this country. There are some good people that we can make alliances with in certain things to ensure good. And there are some bad people that we got to work on to bring them down a little bit. That's our job as long as we're here in this country. Helping with the good and trying to lessen the bad. And if we can do that, we've done our job as Muslims. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us successful. I'm going to leave y'all on. Are y'all staying or what are y'all doing? Or y'all going to close out?
I'm out, unless Imam Faheem want to stay.
I'm bailing, cuz.
All right, so give y'all final statements before we bail out.
Yeah, I don't have any final statements. Just it's going to be on us to really explore some of the solutions that we kind of, suggested here. Really being ready to make a migration, or at least put our monies together and do something that's going to be empowering for us. That and we also need to look towards something that's independent of the system. We already have models, not us. Well, you look at people like the Amish and what are the people? They kind of took over Nevada. What are those people called? The Mormons. Yeah, they kind of they kind of run the state. Where the Amish are, they kind of run their area, and that's where we needed, where we concentrated at, and we got our resources together. We put our money together. We build communities again. I think that's going to be the way to go. And think about this American Hydra, inshallah. That's my words.
My final words. I think we, meaning us imams and all of our followers and supporters, need to work together with brothers who are already engaged, like our brother Bilal Shabazz. And when we reach out to these other Black Muslim leaders and we start talking politics, we have to include those who are already involved in it. Brother Bilal said something earlier in the comments about starting from scratch. I don't think anyone here, unless I misheard, unless I didn't hear it, I don't think anyone here talked about doing anything from scratch. But in any case, we have to organize, and to whatever extent we decide to engage, those people who are already doing it are the best to educate us and inform us about how we should engage. I know I haven't, I hope my words didn't leave anyone to think that I'm advocating, starting anything from scratch. But well, alhamdulillah. So we need to, consult the experts. They understand this thing, because a lot of us, we don't understand how convoluted this system is. Like, every state has a different way of choosing their delegates to the electoral college. Many of us, like, we really think that when a person votes, that person is voting for a president. No, they are voting for one of those delegates who are going to vote on your behalf for the president. And so it's very convoluted. It's not simple. We need people to educate us in that. And we should, and one of the things that I wanted to say earlier is that politics does not equal elections or voting. voting or elections are one part, one aspect of politics. So these conversations, we shouldn't be only having them every 4 years. This should be an ongoing conversation that we have in public and in private with regards to our agenda and what we want and how we intend to utilize politics to get what we want. So this is something that has to be an ongoing conversation, not always in public, but also in private as well. So I hope that those who are like their heart is in it, these type of things, I hope that they are, help us organize and strategize and come together, because the imam can't do everything, right? If that's your thing, you need to like take the charge and include us in on it, alhamdulillah. Another thing I want to say is that I look forward to seeing all of you in Albuquerque, New Mexico this Friday and Saturday. Check out social media for the itinerary and all that good stuff. Alhamdulillah. And with that, that's all I have to say. Go ahead.
Good.
That's it. I close.
I wanted to say something based on what you said, even though I want to close out. But the point you made about voting is just part of it. Because once you vote, we can't go to sleep. Because you be voting for people, we vote, and they don't do nothing they promised us. And we ain't following through. That is a complete involvement that needs to be in monitoring those who we vote for, that they are carrying out our agenda like everybody else do. So that aspect is true, because we see many times we vote for people and then they go in, once they got in, they forget all about us. We don't see them to the next voting cycle. So for us, we got to be engaged at every level. And it's most impactful on the local level. On the local level, you can observe a lot and move up. So, that is a good point. May Allah make it easy for you all. Barakallahu fikum. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Inshallah, we have an elder in our community, Brother Lutula, who is like a pioneer in our community. He's in the hospital and, in the intensive care unit. We ask all of you to make dua for him and his family. Let us recite Al-Fatiha, that Allah give him shifa. Bisir Asra Al-Fatiha. And Brother Wahid, we're not forgetting about you. We're just struggling to get people to put money together to do business. That is not as easy as it sounds. We don't trust each other enough with money. So we have to be careful and build trust before we do real investment. But inshallah, we are working on it. May Allah make it easy. The brother's name is Brother Lutula. May Allah reward you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Imam Naeem, who was talking them votes? Man, Trump is clobbering her according to this thing.
Yeah.
This is CNN.
Let me see.
See, look. Can y'all see it? Can y'all see the TV? See, that's Trump.
I see your ceiling now.
Look at that. You see the votes?
3154.
Yeah, that's CNN, bro. I'm CNN, Hawk. Trump's kicking that butt.
See here, this is the numbers I'm seeing here.
Oh, he's still kicking her butt.
Yeah.
It might balance out because CNN, they call it when they look like most of the votes are in.
Oh,
And
we still on. We still running.
Who, me? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,